regular meeting on October 10th, 2023. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Jennifer, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is roll call, and to kind of explain our membership here as part of roll call, let me just take a second to tell you where we are with membership of the Beaches Parks and Rec Commission. We are a 7-member commission, but since our last meeting, 2 of our members have been selected to move over to the revived Coastal Advisory Committee. So that is Commissioners Ambrose and John Dow. And then 1 commissioner has resigned. Commissioner Formaster is relocating out of town. So we have 4 people right now. That's enough for a quorum and for us to conduct business. The city council is in the process of, I guess the application time period has closed, but they're now in the process of getting ready to interview candidates and select 3 people to come back onto the board. So that's where we are. So in lieu of roll call, let me just state that we have 4 members here: Commissioners Johnson, Pliskin, Elliott, and Firestein. Okay.
Which is a quorum, correct?
Which is a quorum, yes. So let's see, Samantha. The next item will be current community activities and updates. Anything there?
You need to...
I'm sorry.
Go to minutes.
Let's see, any comments on approval of minutes for August 8th and August 29th?
Do we adopt the minutes?
I have an amendment. Locating my notes. I propose a correction to the August 8th minutes, and number 4 and number 7 be San Gregorio be San Gregorio Park.
Thank you. That's it.
Can I get a motion to,
Move as amended.
okay, second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was approval of both of those minutes. So we are ready to move on now. Item number 4, current community activities and updates, Samantha?
I don't have a presentation tonight, but I will run very quickly through what we've done since the last time we met. We hosted our first Pacific Symphony on the go at the Ole Hanson Beach Club this past Sunday. We saw about 300 people come out to it, so it was great to see people on the lawn enjoying a brass quartet, a horn quartet. And that was a great opportunity to start to engage within the North Beach community as well. So we're excited to see hopefully more activities like that happen. We also hosted our annual skate contest at the Rouse Skateport in September. We had about 60 kids participate this year. We had some really great community sponsorship and engagement with some of our local businesses from the skate industry. And that event is in a great partnership with the Friends of San Clemente Foundation. So a big shout out to them for their support in that effort. And then coming up this October, October is a busy month for recreation. This coming weekend, we have the Friends of San Clemente Carnival is at Vista Hermosa Sports Park. Pre-sale tickets are sold out, but you can buy tickets at the carnival. And that is 4 days, starting Thursday all the way through Sunday, and the hours vary, but all the information is available on the Friends website. And then we head into the Monster Dash is the 28th of October, and that's held downtown. It's a 5K. We've certified the 5K course. So for our avid runners out there, you can get that certified 5K run in the morning. We also do a fun run, the creepy crawl for kids. And that's just up and down Del Mar. So registration's open. There's an early bird discount going on right now. And then we also have Red Ribbon Week and National Night Out, and that's on October 23rd on Monday. This is an annual event that we've done in the community for a long time. We've added National Night Out to Red Ribbon Week. You can start the afternoon with a red ribbon parade with all of our kids in San Clemente schools wearing red and taking a stand against drugs. It's a really important campaign. And then they land at the community center to enjoy National Night Out with all of our law enforcement and kind of our public safety agencies engaged, doing demonstrations, and a really great presence from OCSD, OCFA, Border Patrol, the state beach folks will be there. We'll have our marine safety staff, our pool aquatics team, and a lot of other countywide agencies that focus on safety and community awareness as well. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but that concludes my update.
Thank you, Samantha. There's still discount tickets available for Carnival Colossal?
No, they are completely sold out. They only have a set amount that they can sell every year, and they sold out really quick actually this year. So.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I have 2 speaker cards for item number 3, open oral communications, so let's do those. Patricia Holloway.
Good evening. I wanted to encourage the commission to get involved in planning for or participating in and advertising Arbor Day for 2024. Last year, 4 community groups, the San Clemente Garden Club, Sunrise Rotary, San Clemente Rotary, and Citizens Climate Education, all these groups contributed close to $5,000 to plant 22 trees in Forester Ranch Community Park. Some beautiful oak trees and some native oaks and other trees that that were planted at the park. And I was disappointed that there wasn't much advertising for it, or I believe a commissioner from this board came to the event and was impressed by it, and so I'm hoping that it will be put on your calendar and advertised for next year, because we'd love to have more people involved, and because we're now Tree City USA, we'll be celebrating Arbor Day every year from now on. So that would be a wonderful thing. I also wanted to mention that I spoke on this at the City Council meeting last Tuesday. I was reviewing an item that was added to the agenda, and it proposed expanding your board to include an arts commission, which I think that's a great idea. But it also withdrew street trees from your purview. And I wasn't sure why that was. I'd like to understand why street trees are no longer part of what the Parks and Recreation Commission reviews, because it's stated on the website. It says the commission acts as in an advisory capacity to the City Council on all matters pertaining to parks, beaches, recreation, parkways, and street trees. That's the first item. Most street trees are in parkways, but they didn't delete parkways, so I'm a little confused about that. Then the second, your second responsibility is to evaluate make recommendations to the council on budget for all these things, parks and street trees and parkways and beaches and so on. And so I would like to see, this last go around when I was reviewing the budget, before the street trees were taken away, I did not see, there really wasn't a line item about trees in the budget.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Tricia?
There's a question.
Hi.
Yes.
Where is this group in terms of native plants? I mean, is it, you're the arbor people, so you're basically just the tree people, but is there anybody lobbying to basically change these invasive plants that we have and use native plants? They just don't use as much water too, but.
Right. The Arbor Day Foundation, which supports communities being involved in Arbor Day, they encourage, planting whatever your native trees are in your region. The groups that I mentioned, the Rotaries and the Garden Club and Citizens Climate Education, our preference across the board is for native trees, which is why we were thrilled that I believe 15 coastline oaks were planted at Forest Ranch Park. But sometimes the native trees are not the best choice, and it can also be limiting. What you need is a diverse palette, because we have so many pests and diseases, so you don't want to lose all your oaks and all your sycamores if you're just planting, the native trees. Anyway, it's best to have a diversity of trees, and we encourage low water using trees. We discourage eucalyptus and palms. And the reason we discourage palms is because they do not provide as many environmental benefits, like absorbing the carbon dioxide and releasing the oxygen, cooling, erosion control, and so on.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Next speaker is Amanda Pugh.
So glad that Ms. Homery was here to speak on this matter. I had the opportunity of walking St. Gregoria Park at September 27th after the ribbon cutting, and it's my understanding that there was like 7 trees that had been cut down, one that fell over, but that was after a storm. And I really support that the BPNR will commit to proposing or bring that to the City Council to plant more trees, as Patricia Holloway stated. I think it's important to note that planting native trees is good, but having more diverse trees is even better, because we all know that on Del Cerro, I think 400 trees were cut down as a result of a beetle. And we really don't want that to, keep on happening and keep on occurring. So I just wanted to quickly say that I definitely support planting more trees, and I know that I had the opportunity of planting a tree at Lehigh. Patricia had invited me to plant trees at St. Cloutier High School years ago, and that was really fantastic. And so as a family member and I, as both alumni, were able to plant trees, and I really, that was an honor to do that. So I hope that more public tree planting is supported in our city, and as well as being placed on the city agenda, because that's one of the things that gets sometimes overlooked on Facebook or on our city's webpage. Because today I didn't even realize there was a meeting until a couple hours ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. First item is under new business. Item 6A, consideration of allowing dog access on city beaches. Samantha, do we have a staff report?
Yeah, I will be very brief, because I feel like the staff report really summarizes the objective. This is a work plan item that the commission requested to look at, specific to dog access on San Clemente public beaches, city beaches. There's, as the staff report kind of details, this has been discussed frequently and often by the commission. So the staff report gives some background on the last time this was considered. It's the history of where we are today and how we got there. So this evening, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any, but this also provides some background and context to what other agencies do. I do want to note that wherever the commission goes, there might be a want to also have Coastal Advisory consider this. They previously discussed it back when this was looked at in 2021. The Coastal Advisory had provided a recommendation to not support beaches or dogs on beaches. But again, to have a very holistic view, I think the goal of the commission is to begin a discussion with members of the public and amongst themselves. So happy to take questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any questions?
So Samantha, you did a dossier of all the cities that were beach cities in terms of, you know, their leashed or unleashed, the open beach. Just to be clear, San Diego appears to be, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the only city of all these cities, which is Del Mar, Newport Beach, Carter's Gate Beach, Laguna Beach, etc., that actually has a dog beach. Is there other cities that have that in their ordinances?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Coronado. Huntington does, it's, that's listed there.
Yeah, I actually looked up some of the ordinances just to see, you know, where they're at, because you might as well understand either why they do or why they don't. But, maybe we may think differently.
I'm sorry, the report says City of Huntington Beach. Huntington Dog Beach designated on-leash dog beach, open daily, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
My understanding, they have some setup that allows off-leash access. I don't specifically know. I think it's run by a separate group. Members of the public may be able to provide that in their comments.
Other questions? Samantha, I have a question. I saw, we got a number of emails today, and I saw an item in there, and I also heard this before, that there's some relatively recent, it appears kind of new enforcement activity happening with dogs on beaches. Are you aware of that, or have you gotten any?
On city beaches,
Yeah, yes.
I would hope it's not new. We don't allow dogs on the beach, so it should have always been enforced. If there has been an increased effort to enforce it, that would be on our marine safety personnel as well as our coastal animal services authority, the animal shelter folks. It's certainly been something that the city's aware of. There's kind of early morning hours, we know that dogs are on the beach. And we hear it from both sides that we want our dogs here. We also hear we don't want dogs here. So if somebody is cited, it's because they're in violation of the municipal code.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Samantha? We have several speakers. First one is Susan Ambrose.
Good evening, Commissioners. How are you this evening?
Good.
Looking ready for business, that's for sure. I'm here tonight as a resident, speaking as a resident, even though I have worked before or volunteered before with the Coastal Advisory Committee that you mentioned earlier, Chair Bernstein, as well as on your commission, as a Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Commissioner for nearly a year. So I'm here, though, to talk about beaches, dogs on the beaches, as a resident, and thinking I walked that walk on the beach and on the coastal trail many days, many months, many years. I've lived in San Clemente for about 38 years, and that's not as old as the coastal trail is, but it's probably older than the beach. I'm asking you not to allow dogs on the beach for various reasons, and some of them were summarized in the comments that Samantha included in her report. Samantha, with your permission, I'd like to note some of these. Enforcement and related costs need to be explored. Signage needs to be carefully considered if access is granted. Beaches are very narrow and have not changed since the last discussion. which would be in 2021. Liability of dogs on beaches is a concern. Dog waste on beaches is a concern. Aggressive dogs and irresponsible owners are a concern. Impacts on lifeguards and their duties are a concern. Liability would be the same as other public property. Allowing morning and evening hours serves residents, not visitors. Allowing dogs to walk on the beach may free up space on the beach trail. And those are all concerns that many people have voiced to me in the various volunteer opportunities that I've had. But just as a person, just as a resident here, I think that the work that you're doing with master plans right now, looking at off-leash opportunities as well as leash opportunities and dog runs, is a very wise strategy to use to help dog owners let their animals practice and running and playing with each other and socializing. I don't think that the beach would provide a safe atmosphere for children and families with dogs that are running loose at the beach. I myself have witnessed several incidents where children have been plowed down by running dogs, playing, for example, frisbee on the beach with their owners. I ask you to think carefully about protecting the safety of our residents on our beaches. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Amanda Q.
Yeah, on purpose. Thank you, though. Thank you so much, Director Wiley, for a great report, giving a history of dog access to beaches and parks. But it's one of the things that struck me out, is in 2008, basically the main concern or the critical topics are pretty much the same from then to now. They are still relevant, include healthy, safety, cleanliness, enforcement, environmental issues, location, and hours available on the beach. However, I know this is a hot topic right now regarding sand replenishment and coastal erosion. And in 2012, sand replenishment, that was the concerns back then, and they are prevalent now. Because of the diminishing beach space for the public, the council voted to defer this item until there was a significant change on city beaches. So since 2012, of course, Cypress Shores has had a lot of issues regarding the rocks or boulders that have been placed on there. Our beaches are smaller, and in that survey, it said that North Beach was I guess it was 57.1% that people supported having a dog park at North Beach. However, right now, it just seems just so rocky, the sand's so rocky, and it's just not a good area to have it. But as we look at, this is just the reasons for not enforcement related to cost, signage, beaches are very narrow, as former Commissioner Susan Ambrose stated, the liability, the dog waste on beaches, and I really don't know how often our city is checking the water quality, which should be done, I think maybe on a weekly or monthly basis, whatever state requirement allows. And I recently just saw a post of a person that was bit. They were just walking by Lowe's, and a dog just basically just went and bit someone. So my concern is about the liability. I've loved going to Carmel Beach. I love going to Asilomar up north, and that area is just really beautiful. The sand is just very pristine, and people are very diligent to pick up after themselves. And I know other places, Laguna Beach, they do that, but you have to realize that beach, the Laguna Beach, those little coves, and it's basically community-based, and people do pick up after themselves, and I think that would be a concern here. So I just can't support having a beach for dogs at this time.
Thank you, Amanda. Next speaker is David Kemp. Let me say one thing. I have a couple cards here that want to talk about 6A and B. 6A is about dog access to beaches. 6B is about off-leash opportunities in parks. So right now we are on item A, so if you can keep your comments to that. Cynthia Booth also just said agenda item 6. I don't know if that's 6A or 6B. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Sorry, both A and B.
Both, okay. Okay, then I'll call up the people for A right now, and you'll get another opportunity for B. David Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor speak. We're very fortunate to live in a beautiful part of the world, and I just feel it should be shared amongst all the residents of San Clemente, not just one or two. Talking about, you know, I just heard these two ladies speak about now beaches are too narrow, there's, you know, kids everywhere. If the dogs were allowed on the beach early in the morning, and you could name the time that they've got to be off, say it's 7:30 for the sake of argument, most families don't come down to the beach till 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. The beaches are empty. It's a great opportunity for residents who have got dogs to spend time together and spend time on the beach. And you know, let's share it for everybody. The argument that the beach is too narrow, how wide do you think dogs are? You know, I mean, you could name the area of the beach that you think was most suitable. You know, maybe North Beach to Mariposa or something like that, or you could come up with anything, and you could come up with a time where people have to be off the sand, and if they're off by 7:30, then you've got 2 hours before probably the families start turning up. Check it out. It's an opportunity being missed. You named some of the other cities where they have dog beaches, and it all works fine. It's just here we seem to be anti-dog. I'm listening to the two ladies. I can't even understand their arguments. I mean, it's not just about them. It's about everybody. Enjoying where we live and the opportunities that we have. And if dogs, if you walk down tomorrow at 6:30 in the morning, the beach will be empty. Why not let people have their dogs on the beach, first thing in the morning? As long as they're away, before people come down, those things that they're talking about don't even come into play. Thanks for the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Betsy Hartley.
I have to agree with the gentleman here, because I think there are ways to include everyone and not just a one-sided view of the city. And when I walk my dog on the beach, I have to go up to Laguna Beach. They allow the dogs on the beach in the morning. We could have maybe a trial and see how it would work. If we could have maybe dawn till 8:30 or something in the morning where dogs are allowed on the beach on leash. Just give it a try so that everybody can enjoy the beach, not just, there really isn't, he's right, there aren't people, families on the beach at that time of the morning, especially North Beach. So, and it doesn't matter if it's rocky, sometimes it's rocky, sometimes it's sandy, and it doesn't matter how wide it is. So that just, I think it's a consideration that should be looked at, not just single-mindedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia Booth.
Hi, I'm new to San Clemente. I moved here about 3 months ago. I am a dog trainer, so I actually used to live out near Costa Mesa. I used to go to Huntington Dog Beach all the time. A lot of people want to be able to go bring their dogs there, play fetch, have them learn how to swim. The beach is a fantastic place for socialization. It's also wonderful, not like parks. It's an on-the-move type of thing, right? So when you go to the beach, you're not often, for dogs, they're not usually just sitting there in the chair, right, while you just watch them run circles around you. You're very active with them, and it's a very on-the-go experience. So in North Beach in specific, with the boundaries and the borders that they have, and you have to kind of go through those gates, it's very off-put where the trail is, where it's a nice stretch where you can just run with your dog, walk with your dog, train your dog, fetch with your dog. let them go and play in the water, but it's a very on-the-go activity when you do bring your dogs to the beach. So it's kind of removing them from the trail where people would be biking or skating or whatever the case may be, where that reactivity might come into play. You're kind of offset away from that, and they're so dedicated to be working with you that I think that with San Clemente having so many dogs here and you have so many different beach access points, having one dedicated that like just early morning until 11, maybe no weekends, no holidays, but having that time period where the humans can go and spend time with their dog at the beach, I think would be really beneficial for everybody, especially for socialization, getting dogs used to having things running around them. The more that we can keep them pent up and on leash and stay away from that, stay away from that, the more reactivity you're going to have. You have to let them sniff, explore, and play. So, I'm for it.
Thank you.
Okay.
M. Aguilar.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm here to request your consideration in favor of allowing some sort of limited, well-thought-through, planful time for dogs to be on the beach. I'm a dog owner, and I have a couple different types of dogs. One that is more reactive, one that is more playful and more social, and other avenues aren't necessarily as good for those types of more reactive dogs who get more nervous around other dogs. The beach, as some of the other speakers indicated, when we have to travel very far, an hour, 45 minutes to take them to the beach does provide a very open space, which the dog parks, designated dog parks, as a closed space don't provide. So even if they're on leash, and if that's how you decide to allow it, it just, the openness of a beach experience does provide a different type of experience for more sensitive types of dogs. So for that reason, I really like that space for my two different types of dogs. Like others have indicated, when I walk on the trail very, very early in the morning, there's no one on the beach. And we long to be able to use our own city resources, just like everybody else, with our pets when it wouldn't bother anyone. So I'm very much in favor of designated hours, enforcement costs and those kinds of things. I mean, we have enforcement costs today. I would really like to see that there's an argument that enforcement costs for people following whatever rules may be designated are going to be higher than enforcement costs today. Because today you're enforcing as well, you're enforcing off-beach. That is my request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is all our speakers on 6A. Any thoughts by the commission? Ideas of what we might want to do? Reactions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think the argument regarding time limits for specific times is a very compelling argument from my perspective, because if there's no one else ever using the beach early in the morning, I mean, what could be possibly be wrong? The only question that I have is, if the dog is off the leash, there should be some kind of signage that indemnifies the city if there's a problem. In other words, you're responsible for your dog and your dog's behavior, and just because the city lets you on the beach does not mean that somehow the city is a participant. I know that sounds a little bit on the legal side. I would defer to counselor, of course. But I think it's a good idea to have a time limit on the beach. Is there any compelling reason not to have a dog on the beach? I mean, what are these other cities? There's 3 cities, I stand corrected, that have a dog beach. What argument do they make? Is there an argument made?
Well, we heard.
That would be a question for your commissioners.
Jennifer?
As an attorney, and not the city's attorney, but as a private attorney, I have a lot of concerns about liability. But I have seen this done well. I used to be a resident in Huntington Beach, and they have a terrific dog beach. And I think that it is worth a trial period for an on-leash situation with limited hours in the morning and the evening, and perhaps non-summertime, like perhaps in October through April. And let's see how it goes and see what kind of issues come up with definite signage that owners are responsible for picking up their waste and any kind of
Control.
behavior by their dogs, correct?
Thank you. Thor, any thoughts? Or-
I really have a hard time with the government, telling you what you can and can't do with the pet and the beach and so forth. But, the city has these rules and regulations in place for a reason and for a good reason, I think. I'd have to agree with Commissioner Queskin that, on the other hand, if no one's going to be on the beach, say for the first hour of daylight, what's the big deal? Another concern of mine is, I'm born and raised in San Diego, Ocean Beach as a matter of fact, so grew up going to the dog beach, and I think it's a great asset for the community. However, California is experiencing a very large homeless problem, and a lot of many people who congregate at Ocean Beach Dog Park and stay there all day, every week, for the whole month and week. There are a lot of transients there who, and the only reason why they're there is because they have the dog. So they let the dogs run loose. They're doing their drugs there, and it's just not a good scene. Perhaps, and then also if we advertise, hey, San Clemente has a dog beach, perhaps it may bring a lot of people from neighboring cities and throughout the county or whatever, and maybe these people could be the type of people that we want to attract, or like I previously mentioned, maybe transients and so forth. What if we did a trial and said, hey, we're going to keep it illegal, we're not going to enforce it for the first hour of the day? That way we don't get a bunch of people coming in from out of town, abusing the system, but we could take care of our residents who, if they want to get up extra early for the first hour of the day, before anyone gets there, we'll just say, hey, we're going to keep it illegal, but there won't be any enforcement, and see how that goes. That's kind of what I'd like to see. Sorry, and lastly, we're going to be getting sand on the beach too, and I just kind of see there being a little bit of an issue with the tractors, the pipes pumping sand onto the beach, and then if we have dogs running around. I know there are two separate agenda items. I would like this commission to focus on off-leash dog parks first, and kind of keep this open, but that's just kind of where I stand. I'd like some feedback, if maybe we could say, hey, no enforcement for the first hour or so.
Mr. Chairman? Well, one of the ways to control non-residents using the beach is that one of the conditions of using the beach has to be that the dog has a San Clemente dog license. So, that's a requirement in the city of San Clemente to have a dog license. So that's a way to sort of isolate and separate the fact that it's for residents. I don't mean to be too harsh about it, but the fact of the matter is that the residents should have the first opportunity to use the facility, to use the beach. So I would say, once again, if we have conditions and terms to use the beach, which I think is the key ingredient, maybe a time during the season, although frankly, once the dogs are on the beach, I think they're going to like being on the beach. And I don't know how you tell the dog, okay, well, it's July and, you can't go on the beach. I mean, the poor dog will probably gets, traumatized. So there's just a question of terms and conditions have to be very careful and consistent with what Councilor Elliott's indicated, that we're not inventing the wheel here. I mean, there's people who do this, and there are ways of accommodating this and also not exposing the city and the dog owners as well to any kind of issues, litigious issues or responsibility or liability. So, dog license, you don't have a dog license, San Clemente, you can't use a dog beach.
So, let me give you some of my thoughts. There's a lot of comments about enforcement and how would we handle enforcement. I'm really struggling with that one because we have enforcement today. Here we're actually relaxing a requirement. We would tell our enforcement agents, you don't have to go look for this and write it up in this area at this time, however we define the rules. So I'm struggling with why enforcement is a greater issue if we decide to go forward with this under some very specific rules. If somebody can explain that to me, great. The narrow access on the beach, I'm also struggling with that. I go on a run every other day in the morning for, almost an hour. And so I'm on city sidewalks a lot. I pass a lot of dogs, and we don't run into each other. I mean, I don't know what the concern is about a narrow beach means you can't have dogs. If we put them on leash, I guess that would be my recommendation. If we say on leash is the requirement, that would be my recommendation. But I don't understand what other concerns there are about the fact that the beach is narrow. I would also have a concern about the location, the specific location. I think because we are getting sand, T Street to Linda Lane, and because that's where a lot of our beach activity for people and surfers is, maybe that's not where we would allow this. Maybe it should be an area in North Beach and an area in the south somewhere. And then water quality too. I know this was, in my mind at least, I listened to the city council discussion and some of the commission and committee discussion before that for the last time this came up, which was a little over 2 years ago. And that was a big concern, and the reason for that was because at the time, I think, we were getting some exceedances around the pier, and we didn't want to contribute in any way, even to the perception that we were doing something that could contribute more to this problem. And as soon as we put up bird netting to stop the birds from roosting under the pier, even at the pier, that problem seemed to go away. Our water quality reports are fine. You can see them yourself on ocbeachinfo.com. So that's kind of where I am. I would lean toward allowing it in specific locations, specific times of day, on leash. So, anybody have a motion?
Sure, for purpose of discussion, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I would move that the City of St. Clemente draft an ordinance, revise the municipal code ordinance to allow dogs on beaches at specific times, unleashed, at a specific location which has to be determined that it's compatible with this activity. That the use be restricted to only residents and specifically residents whose dogs have a San Clemente license. Additionally, I don't have the language for terms and conditions, but in a situation like this delineated area, there should be some specific signage that announces the conditions in terms of the use, as well as a disclaimer for the city of San Clemente that the use of this beach in no way, shape, or form basically makes the city liable for any behavior on the various dogs. Oh, and by the way, the other thing we should make sure is that there's a dog waste equipment located at whatever beach it is. Okay, do I have a second?
Let me say, my only concern about what you said is that I think we should be the ones that kind of come forward with those specifics, not just kind of turn it over to staff or somebody else to say, okay, well, here's our idea about the location and times of day, those kind of things. I think.
No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not specifying. I'm leaving that open because
I know that's what I don't like.
Oh,
I'm
so you want
we
to
should come
specify
up with those as a proposal.
I don't have enough information to do that, unfortunately. And specifically, too, the other participant in this thing, at least to give us advice, would be the city attorney. I mean, they should have some input in this, whether we listen to them or not. There's another story, but that should be. Unless council wants to do it. You want to do it for us, councilor? No, just
I
kidding.
don't have that power.
Okay, so get a tie for lack of a second?
You know, I think I can support something very similar. My issue is I want to, I really would like to see this as a trial, perhaps maybe the first day, first hour of sunlight of the day, something like that.
That's
So
consistent.
it's, you know, very limited, first hour of sunlight, something like that, or 2 hours after first light, something similar.
Well, if you'd be so kind as to second my motion, then we could possibly amend it with that condition. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
I think so, I guess.
Second.
Beautiful. So we have that motion. Now you want to make an amendment to the motion specifically regarding the time?
Okay, we have a motion by Preston, seconded by Johnson. Could you, first of all, restate the motion, please?
Sure. Specifically, I think the motion would be that the dog ordinance in the city of San Clemente be revised to allow a selected area to be available for dogs off leash at specific limited times, at a specific limited location, restricted use to residents of San Clemente, and additionally, that wherever that location is made, that appropriate signage is installed that indicates the responsibility of the dog owner relative to the responsibility of the city of San Clemente, and whatever other conditions that we want to inform the users regarding. I don't really have enough information to specify the time limits or the seasonal time limits, but I guess what we could do is we can, well, I guess if the motion is adopted, then I guess it would be sent up to the city council as an advisory situation. How do we flesh it?
If I can maybe help get, I think, to where you want to be. So it sounds like the commission is interested in entertaining an ordinance that would amend our existing code. So we would need to draft an ordinance. I think if I'm reading Chair Firestein's stand correctly, the one is to give specific direction to staff. That's very much appreciated. We'd like to know what location you're looking at and the dates and the times and the seasons, if that is the desire of the commission. So I might suggest that you may form a very brief subcommittee of this discussion, and we could bring back an ordinance to the commission in December. And then that would give the whole body an opportunity to look at a very definitive option, as well as members of the public, and then from there it could go to council. Is that clearer?
Yeah, so I guess consistent with what Samantha is saying, that we table the motion.
Well, I
You
think
can
the
make an
motion,
alternate motion,
Yeah.
a substitute motion. Somebody can make a substitute motion.
And that substitute motion would be to table the motion, this motion? I'm sorry, we're getting in the weeds.
May I make a substitute motion?
Commissioner Elliott's going to get us there, I can see it.
Here she comes, thank God.
I move that this commission allow dogs on leash at North Beach. And the reason for that is because of the 2021 Dog Access Survey summary, where 57.1% of the residents said North Beach was their preferred location. During the times of 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., with proper signage, that dog waste is to be picked up by its owners. Dog owners are to be responsible for their dog's actions, and restricted to San Clemente residents
That's different than what he
with
said.
San Clemente dog licenses.
But that's different than what he said. He said off-leash.
Right, we have two different motions here. I guess my motion is being tabled, and Jennifer's motion is with the dogs on leash. My motion is with the dogs unleashed. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'm just curious, how do we want to vote for leash versus unleashed? as a,
Okay, so for clarification, you have a motion made by Commissioner Quest and seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Elliott has made a substitute motion. She will need a second in order for that to be considered. There could be a friendly amendment made to that motion as well. If there is no second on that motion, then that motion fails and we default to the original motion made by Vice Chair Quescom.
Unless they want
is
to.
there a call for the second or no second?
Can we adjust the hours from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.? And that way, with a little leniency, people may be able to stay until 8:30 or so.
So what are the specific hours that you're allowed to go?
6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then, we could maybe have an agreement to, give them a 20 or 30-minute grace period, something like that.
I'd be willing to have that friendly amendment.
Okay. So with the, I second that.
We still haven't resolved.
And then
Well, this is-
off leash, do we want off leash?
Yeah, we just have to resolve the leash on this. I think we're in agreement about
This is
everything
now a
else.
substitute motion, so we would be voting on a motion for,
Or second, she needs a second.
that's what Thor was doing, I think.
Oh, you're checking on her motion?
Yeah.
With the friendly amendment,
Yeah.
changing it to 8 a.m. I would also like to see off leash, so I don't know.
I think you didn't second her
So,
motion.
yeah.
I think, okay, so let's vote on the substitute motion first, okay, are we ready? This is a motion by Elliott and seconded by Johnson.
Should we make it fail to allow on leash then?
Yes.
Because I support on leash.
On leash or off leash?
Off leash.
Okay, so the motion, I think the way it would work.
Or we could do another
it would
substitute.
fail,
We could do one more substitute.
and then we go back to consider.
Can you do one more substitute?
I'm willing to allow a friendly amendment between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. to be off leash if you are agreeable to North Beach.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Second.
Okay, now we have the motion. You want to repeat that motion, Chairman?
Yeah, would you repeat that, Jen? Well, you have to repeat the whole thing.
Sure. I move that we amend the ordinance to allow dogs off leash at North Beach between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. And it is to be used by residents of San Clemente, and the dogs are to have San Clemente dog licenses. We shall post dog waste equipment. Owners are required to pick up after their dogs, and owners are liable for their dog's behavior.
Just under discussion, I guess I think I'm a no. I think it's too restrictive. I would be much more inclined to, we seem to be in different places here, and maybe if we give a subcommittee the task to come back, take 1 or 2 meetings during the next couple of months before we get to, our meeting, excuse me, in December, maybe we could come back with a little more agreement, because I think we're kind of all over the place here, so.
Well, we should vote on the motion, won't that determine, wouldn't voting on Jennifer's motion sort of indicate the
All those were pretty specific things.
Is there a second to my motion?
Second?
I thought you had a second.
I guess we call for the question.
Any other discussion?
Chair, I would have to agree with you. I believe that it is too restrictive. However, considering needs of the city, sand replenishment, and so forth, I think this would be a good compromise and a good start. I totally agree with you. I just don't know how much more I could budge on loosening restrictions. But I completely understand where you're coming from.
Call for the question?
Any other discussion? No more discussion? Okay.
Sorry. Is it possible that we may call for the question, and if it does pass, in addition, also see if we want a subcommittee on this? I would support that as well.
Yeah, but one of the things that happens with the subcommittee, and I'm going to editorialize a little bit here, I think we kind of clearly understand what the issues are. And when you send it to a subcommittee, it kind of dies paralysis by analysis. I mean, it just goes around and around. I mean, are we pretty clear in terms of what we want to do here, what we want to provide? And if there's an issue, you know, if it doesn't work, then we, you know, revisit it and give it a different set of conditions or terms or whatever. Anyway.
I don't think there's an issue with a subcommittee. I mean, if we could give them a very specific task to come back in December with some specifics that we're looking for, times, locations, on-leash, off-leash, those kind of specific things. I don't see a problem with handing that over to a subcommittee and expecting them to come back with an answer.
Yeah, but I would rather give it to the staff to come back with an ordinance in conjunction with both the enforcement and with any other implications of the ordinance. I mean, the ordinance is essentially a draft ordinance, you know, and that the staff, specifically the director, would then take that action by us and, you know, make it consistent with the city municipal code, et cetera, et cetera. I just don't really see, with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, what a committee is going to do that's semantic here. Anyway, I call for the question.
Any other comments?
I'm looking for a vote.
Okay.
Is this vote, and do you guys want to see an ordinance in December, or do you want this to be sent directly to council?
Oh, I don't know
I just
which
need
is the preferred,
clarification on that.
which is the most expeditious way to do
It's
it.
the commission's decision, it will be up to you guys.
I think we should review the specifics. I think
Well, the specifics are part of the motion.
I'm sorry, Samantha, could you explain to me what the process is here? It either goes to council and they draw the ordinance, or we draw the ordinance. and
So
recommend it?
what I have is a motion and a second, we don't have a vote yet. I have the details of what this commission is looking to do. The question would be, is this motion to make a recommendation with all these things directly to council with an ordinance, and staff will handle writing that? Or is the commission requesting an ordinance with those specifics returned to the commission for review? So is this going straight to council, or are you looking for it to come back to the commission? I just need that direction.
I think it should come back to us. I would like to give the public one more opportunity to respond to this before we decide this is what we want to take forward to city council.
And I'd like to ask a question. If we ask that this go directly to council, will Coastal Advisory still have a chance to weigh in with their concerns?
It's unlikely, I don't know. I don't know when the Coastal Advisory Committee will be meeting, and I don't know when they have set meetings.
Yeah, good guy.
It is a committee too, so.
Well, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say committee, Coastal Advisory Committee. You said the Coastal Commission
Coastal
had
Commission.
considered this prior?
I know, I don't know, Coastal Advisory, the city's committee. Coastal Commission, I don't believe there would, I think it can be done in an exemption, but I am not in planning, so I'd have to check with my planning colleagues.
Well, I made the motion, and I would like this to go to city council. I don't know if that is seconded.
I concur, I second that.
So I'm sorry, just for
So
clarity,
essentially, if I restate-
Commissioner Johnson seconded this motion originally. It would have to be Commissioner Johnson who agrees to that component. So again, we have a motion for 6 to 8 a.m. at North Beach only, with signage that includes responsible dog ownership, San Clemente residents with licensed dogs only, off-leash, direct city council. That's the motion.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you second that, Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, now you can call for the vote unless
Yeah.
there's discussion.
Okay. Let's see, we are ready to vote. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Buskin,
Oh, thank you. Aye.
and I'm a no. Okay.
So for the record, that passes 3 to 1
Passes 3
with
to
Chair
1. I'm sorry.
Firestein.
Yeah, passes 3 to 1 with Chair Firestein, the no vote.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're ready to move on to item 6B. Consideration of expanding off-leash dog access in parks. Samantha, do we have a staff report?
Yeah, again, very brief. This is something that has also been considered somewhat in conjunction of dog access on beaches. So the staff report really summarizes what was intended to happen based on the 2018 master plan and through the process of what we learned through the site-specific master plans in 2021. Of course, we are not, right now, those plans are not moving forward at this time because we don't have environmental. So to kind of capture what the plan was, San Luis Rey Park was intended to add an off-leash dog area, as well as San Gregorio Park. I think it's important to note that through our master plan process, it has been very clear that dog access and dog park access is very important to the community. And Barron-Miller does not serve the majority of our residents in the way it's needed. So the master plan through the site-specific update was going to add additional off-leash dog parks. So for tonight, if the commission wants to consider looking at those plans, you could look at, suggesting pushing those forward. I don't know what the commission wants to do. You could also look at looking at other areas that would allow for off-leash dog access in parks, or maybe you look at modifying the existing ordinance. Right now, we allow dogs in all of our parks that have to be on leash, and that's an important factor in our park system. But the commission could certainly just give direction to staff on considering expanding sites, and we can bring something back, or to look further into the existing site plans that were considered previously.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So the parks are a little bit different than the beach, because the park has a lot of different activity. Like a San Gregorio example is kids playing soccer, and people playing basketball, and people playing baseball. So it's a much different kind of environment and use of the facility, and it's wonderful to take your dog off the leash and let it run across the soccer field, but I think there's probably a little more liability and a little more difficulty having an unleashed dog in the park. So my suggestion, or my comment would be that we leave the ordinance as it stands.
Okay, we're at a point where we're asking Samantha questions based on her staff
sorry.
report, and then we have some speaker cards too before we get to her own thoughts on the matter. Any questions for Samantha?
I do have a question. The proposed dog parks that are off-leash at San G and San Luis Rey, those are going to be fenced, enclosed, off-leash park areas, right?
Yeah, it would be staff's professional recommendation that dogs remain on leash in park. They're welcome in parks, but unless there's a designated area, it would be unadvisable to allow them off leash, just free roaming. But San Luis Rey and San Gregorio were fenced dog areas. Thank you.
Other questions for Samantha? Okay, we have some speakers here. First up is Dorothy Melia.
First of all, thank you for the playground at San Gregorio. It is just fabulous. I'm a city resident for 38 years, and the city of San Clemente has a population of some 65,000 people. We have one dog park, as you mentioned. It's 6 miles from North San Clemente. There's a large population of people that have to drive 6 miles, 15 minutes in a congested area to get to Steve. And so we already have the dog park. In 2018, I read through the master plan, and I dog-eared and underlined every mention of the need for unleashed dog areas. And it was phenomenal, and it was completely ignored. I understand the movement for getting unleashed dogs, but I've met with Samantha, I've met with the other members of your organization, and I feel like we are in this massive black hole. There is no reason for us not to move forward with the unleashed dog park areas. San Gregorio has several areas that could accommodate a dog park with absolutely no disruption to the recreational programs. I just feel like this is a vacuum. You sit here and make decisions. You haven't walked the areas. You haven't walked the beaches with your dogs. You're making decisions where we are out there every single day with our dogs, and there is no place for us except for that faraway dog park where we can let our dogs run, socialize with other dogs, and play. It's unheard of to be in a community this size and not be able to unleash your dog without being ticketed. And granted, animal control officers are very good at their job. When we're at San Gorgonio, if we let our dog off for a moment to run after a ball, they're right there and they will ticket us. And however, if you talk to each one of the animal control officers, which I would challenge you to do, they all want to quit policing San Gorgonio and they want a dog, off-leash dog park. But I don't feel like we communicate the real need. I think it feels like, well, maybe we should. Let's get people walk the park. I talked to Andy Hall when the playground was opened, and he said, right after we talked, he was going to walk the park. There are vast areas of green in San Gorgonio that are, at any given time of the day, empty. You are not trotting over soccer kids. You are not interfering with their baseball teams. You are having this vast area where you've got your dog on a leash and you're looking around going, why the heck can't I let my dog off the leash for a minute without the guy running out of the bushes with his binoculars literally giving us a ticket? I have two requests. First of all, remarkably, we have no doggy bags at San Gorgonio Park. No poop bags. Nasty park. I talked to the Recreation Department and they told me that it was my responsibility to find a sponsor to put up the poop bags. I thought that was strange. So anyway,
Thank you.
going out of time.
Thank you. Amanda Hugh.
Glad to be here. As a San Clemente resident for over 50 years, I've been very active in the community. Glad to be looking out for the best interests of our city. I had the opportunity, I wanted to thank everybody. It was great attending the ribbon cutting on September 27th for the new playground equipment. I'm glad that a concerned resident and I did speak on the matter a couple years back and at city council meetings. The rusty and exposed metal was really a safety issue and health risk as well. I'm glad to have had the opportunity to walk or had a meeting with the city manager, and Councilmember Cabral also was a part of that meeting after the ribbon cutting at San Gorgonio Park. We were able to go around the area where the proposed concept the map is, and basically asking for actually for it to be a little bit north of that. I think there was concern, and he was here in support of the area. Actually, it should be right here. I think there was a mix-up with that, and he was supposed to be coming down, but I guess he might be on the call. I really think that other area is a little bit better. It's a longer run for dogs to actually move their muscles, and I think it's really important for that, to promote exercise and well-being. So if that could be done, I really would appreciate that. One of the concerns that I brought up was that the fence needs to be replaced at that area, behind that area. I think it's a Caltrans fence, but I don't think, from what the city manager stated, that he doesn't think it's a problem, that they could replace it. Requesting it, I think it's important to have a taller fence, because if someone throws a ball or anything like that, you could have them, a little jumper there. So I just want to make sure that it's a bigger fence, a little sturdier, and I think that would be the best thing for us. I think, when people judge too quickly, they really don't realize that, as a prior dog owner, I love dogs. I love going on the beach at Carmel Beach, and he loved it. Also at Illicillamar, and but I also feel like I have a duty as a San Clemente resident for this length of time to look out for the best interest for any legal complications or any problems with that down the road. We've been sued so many times by certain residents and other entities, other groups. I hope that we can make this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Good job. David Kemp, you have both A and B on your card. David Kemp. No, you don't? No comment on this one? Okay. Betsy Hartley.
Dog people in here. I couldn't agree with you more. The area that was circled on the map is right behind the baseball area, and there's some bleachers there. It's more congested and more used by families watching baseball. If they moved it up north, there's no use up there. You never see any people in this area. So it's just a much better spot to fence in for the dog park. So thank you for that consideration.
Thank you. Dennis?
Okay, hello everybody. Most of you know me, if not, it's not a big deal. My name is Dennis Grimes. I'm a resident here since, 1979, I think. I just want to talk a little bit about the dogs. It's kind of a, it's a good thing. We've always got a situation, positive and negative. What's happening with the dogs, especially since COVID came into place, a lot of people are home now, and they need their therapy, their dogs to, mostly I'm going to say, we've got issues with crime, we don't have as many police, and people are really depending upon firearms and a dog in the house. It's just become, part of who we are. We're going to have to provide for them. I've had problems myself because my dog was raised on our ranch in Temecula, then we moved into San Clemente. 4 houses on our cul-de-sac behind the high school. Well, he thought everybody in the cul-de-sac belonged to him. So had a hard time with him. And all the people at the dog kennel know me. I'm still paying off my fines, but I love them. They do a great job. I ran into Andy in the elevator coming up here, and I said, hey, Andy, is there any way we can look up and see what the city is being sued for? And I can tell you, dog bites are very popular, and you can't control what your dog's going to do, and we're always going to be sued. There needs to be some kind of, it's in the licensing. I think it was brought up. They have to be permitted. They have to be. The dog needs to be known at, license and all that, or they can't go to the beach. Dog beaches are very successful. If you go to Del Mar or Huntington Beach, they're good. We love them. We need them. But there is that element in the population that will take advantage of any situation. We've got our beautiful homeless people here, and we're always going to have them. So they're not going to be eliminated. They're not going to go away. We just have to deal with it. It's just a matter of, acceptance is all it is, and how we're going to handle it. But I'm going to tell you, you're not going to change it. Dogs are going to be here forever, and we love them. They're a part of our culture, and we need them. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. That's all the speaker cards I have. Any thoughts? Oh, sorry, what?
I had a speaker card up there for this one.
You did?
Yeah, and it said A and B.
I'm sorry?
It said A and B for 6.
A and B? I thought I covered those. I'm sorry, what's your name, just so I can make sure?
Cynthia.
I'm sorry?
Cynthia?
Cynthia.
Okay, come on up.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Oh,
Okay, so for this one, being my profession, I am not a huge fan of dog parks. A lot of people go there when they can't control their own dog, then when they don't have recall on their own dog, when they want to go and socialize their dog. So a bunch of dogs just get into this small fenced-in area, and they just do a bunch of behaviors that aren't really looked kind upon, while their owners sit under umbrellas and are just talking to each other or on their phones and not actually watching and engaging with their dogs. I'm sorry. So that's why I love the beach, because it really makes you have to connect with your dog. While the park, a lot of people just don't really take advantage of spending time with them, and they are out doing whatever they want as far as humping other dogs or trying to jump fences or digging or jumping or whatever the case may be, right? So if this is, I would love to have a place where I can go and play fetch with my dog or do something like that, but having it controlled, especially because there's a lot of different kinds of dogs out there. I have a very shy girl. If I wanted to go and play fetch with her at a park somewhere, what they have out, and I think it's Mission Viejo or Lake Forest, is like an individual dog park where you can go in and nobody else can come in. right? And then they have it portioned out where it's a large dog park, it's a small dog park, and then they have like a trail all the way around it, so you can choose to walk and actually work and train your dog outside of the puppies that are playing inside. And then the dogs that don't necessarily get along with other dogs, they have their own one-on-one time on their own small part. So, like I said, I'm new to this area, so I'm not completely familiar with these parks. I'll go out and walk them. But I think if we can structure it in a type of way where there's going to be less of a liability issue, if there is a dog fight in the park, making sure that there's not an abundance of crazy dogs in one spot, just kind of getting all wild and riled up. So I think some serious planning will need to take place, so that way there's nothing bad that will happen. I think there's less of a liability at the beach than there is for a closed-in dog park. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is all the cards I had. So any discussion, thoughts, comments?
I think our residents deserve off-leash dog parks, more than what we currently have. I think San Luis Rey and San Gorgonio are excellent places for that. My only concern would be that dog parks are big enough. You know, not enclosed, you know, so you could throw the ball for the dog, so forth.
It's tricky.
Can I make a quick statement? We didn't speak about the existing dog parks at all, the ones that are there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So I am, specifically, I'm very familiar with both of these parks that we've been discussing, San Luis Rey and San Gregorio. I have been walking around San Gregorio for a long time, so I'm pretty familiar with that park and its use, and et cetera, et cetera. Aside from all that, I find it very interesting that we have one professional person who is a professional dog trainer who understands the psychology of dogs and et cetera, who is recommending a specific configuration of a dog park. I have nothing against having a dog park at San Gregorio. My only concern is, quite frankly, is parking. Okay, the San Gregorio on a given day is very impacted in parking. Now, when it was originally built, this is an aside, the parking was calculated to be on Vaquero and on Avenida San Gregorio. So there are days when that park is impacted and there's a lot of parking going on, but you know, that's just how it is. Additionally, a dog park would probably compromise that parking, and I'm thinking not just in terms of the parking lot, but I'm thinking in terms of the dog owners. You know, if you can't find a place to park. So that's something that we kind of have to address with this particular use in the park. But I would suggest that we investigate the comments that were made by Cynthia, because I think your point is well taken. By the way, if we do the dog park, what's the surface of the dog park going to be? I mean, that's kind of
That would be discussed at an alternate meeting. There's a lot of feelings and opinions on surfacing as well. We know that Baron Von Willard does not make the cut for most of our residents, at least the large dog park side, but turf has its issues as well.
Grass. And pickleball parking will be gone.
It's not going to be there.
November
Okay.
7th, right?
All right. Commissioner Elliott?
Yeah, that was my comment as well, that the pickleballs will be moving over to Steed Park, and that should alleviate the parking at Sanji, November 7th, I believe that change is happening.
Wow. That'll make San Gregorio nice and quiet.
So my thoughts on this is that we did identify a couple areas when we did the 5 park master plans, and they are still there on those plans, in San Gregorio and San Luis Rey. Unless we want to propose, I don't know what we would propose to the city council. The city council is well aware that we've done the work to put those plans together, and we just don't have the funds to move forward with any additional pieces of those, I believe, right now. And we have, now that we have to kind of focus on pickleball right now. So I don't know what we want to do here, and I'm kind of at a loss about how we move forward at this point with this item.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think, there's actually an item a little bit later in one of the other agenda items that I'm wishing to address, that how we basically incrementally do some things within the specific plan where we don't have the funds to do the entire specific plan. I mean, this is one of those cases where there's an element to the specific plan that appears to be doable and possibly budget relevant, and it's just it's a piece of that document. So is it possible to do a piece of the specific plan?
Yeah, the commission could recommend that council prioritize, if it's San Gregorio, the off-leash dog area, that could be a priority in the next budget cycle. We do have to finalize the environmental, even if it's just on the dog park, we still have to do the environmental assessment component. And then we would have to get into the actual design of the dog park area. So there would be a budget impact, but commission could recommend council prioritize that in the next budget cycle.
And how would we address, if there's calculations made, how would we address the parking? We don't address it, the planning commission addresses it, but what would happen if it was calculated and there wasn't enough parking? I mean, it's a draconian thing to happen, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so that part of the site-specific plan actually added parking to San Gregorio to accommodate the extra activities. But that analysis would all come through the environmental assessment component. And if we needed to add parking, we would have to look at that. And that is how a project could potentially expand beyond what its original scope is.
May I ask a question? Have you taken into consideration
No, I'm
parking
sorry.
for
I'm
pickleball
sorry,
goals?
Yeah.
There's
Goes
plenty
back
of
to the
parking.
plans.
Okay.
So, I mean, is it possible for us to make a motion and send it to council to adopt an ordinance that allows off-leash dog parks at San Gregorio and San Luis Rey? Is that an option?
To the whole park?
Well, no,
Yeah, that's not necessarily the process. We would have to prioritize the funding of it. We have a conceptual plan, which is a great start, but it's really only 1/3 of the development of it. We now see the environmental, and then we would need the design and the construction. So, again, the commission could recommend prioritizing that. Typically, we don't take these types of items mid-fiscal year, and we are in October, and we don't start doing our next budget cycle until we'll start looking at it in February, March, and then it would be adopted for July 1. So it's a little, I guess we're ahead of this, which is good, but we could incorporate this into the budget cycle, unless council wanted to take it up ahead.
I'd like to move that we recommend the council prioritize funding for San G and San Luis Rey off-leash dog parks.
I second.
Where would the dog park go in San Luis Rey, out of curiosity?
Does he bring that slide up? The existing, what is the former lawn bowling facility was proposed to be, there it is. So in the red circle area is an off-leash dog area. This expands into the playground and makes a larger seating area.
Do we have budget for that?
We don't have budget for either of these projects.
Okay, we have a motion by Elliott, second by Johnson. Yes, did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. Okay. Any comments before we vote?
Well, I'd like to, I'm not really clear what happens in San Luis Rey. So in both cases, we're going to advise council that we want to do this. I'm kind of opposed to the situation in San Luis Rey because I was involved in that $400,000 improvement to the lawn bowling facility, and I'd like to kind of capture some of that money. So if we advise it to the council, what happens? I mean, how does this work then? We send them our advice to do the dog parks at both these locations, and then they just acknowledge it, and then, because it's already been approved, right?
This has not been approved. Neither of these plans have been approved. Council would have to adopt an amendment to the master plan for both sites, and then also allocate funding to do the environmental, followed by the design and construction.
So what we're doing here is essentially conceptual, ultimately conceptual recommendation.
Potentially, but you are prioritizing the off-leash dog components ahead of anything else. So San Luis Rey, for example, the commission wants to prioritize just that dog park. That's ahead of the expanded swing structure, the picnic area. That's ahead of everything. For San Gregorio, that's ahead of the other elements that were considered through the conceptual plan.
And one more question, Mr. Chairman. Now, doesn't San Luis Rey have a similar problem with parking?
It does. I think they're different in nature because San Luis Rey is more the residents really. That this is a neighborhood park. San Gregorio is a community park. So the San Gregorio, by definition, serves a broader reach, and this is specific to the neighborhood. I can speak to the conceptual plan drawing that the neighborhood, the community of San Luis Rey Park really wanted an off-leash dog area. Right now they're using the golf course, which is a problem, and they actually currently use the lawn bowling facility for off-leash dog access, even though it's closed. So we are seeing the use of that facility in person right now. But again, parking would be a consideration through the environmental assessment that we would still have to do. And if parking becomes a problem, then we would have to address it.
Any other discussion on the motion? The motion by Elliott, seconded by Johnson, is to recommend to the City Council that we prioritize dog parks in San Luis Rey and San Gregorio for the next budget cycle. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 3-1 with Chair Pro Tem Westcomb voting no. Thank you. Okay, next up is communications, master park plan updates from the director.
So very quickly, if I can jump to Beaches, Parks, and Recreation items, I know that there was a comment regarding dog bags at San Gregorio. They are going to be adding them. Yes. I think there'll be about 3 that will be added, and we'll look to add up to 5 when we have them in stock. We don't want you to leave.
I'm going to throw in something real fast. We have a architect, a landscape architect that has already drawn up 2 plans for the far east side of San Gregorio. And he's willing to share and give you some ideas.
Have them reach out to me. I'd love to meet with you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so master plan update. As it was mentioned, the pickleball facility at San Gregorio is scheduled to close on or before November 7th at council direction. We have been working diligently to get a pickleball facility up and running at Steed Park. So we're still in construction, but construction is moving along. That is 8 courts at Steed. And we do anticipate that that project's going to continue to be on schedule. So when the time is there and we have a date certain, we will be doing a ribbon cutting and certainly inviting commissioners and members of the community. I do, for those that are still here and for commissioners to be aware, there may be a lapse in when the pickleball courts are open and closed because we do have to pull signs down and we've got to kind of get ourselves set up at Steed Park. So we will do our best to communicate and message that to the public wherever possible. And then related to the rest of the master plan, as just again to review, the only master plan update that was approved is Steed. So staff are continuing to work on ways that we can implement the rest of the master plan into bringing it into fruition. Other Parks and Rec items, I gave my activities update earlier on, and I don't have anything else to add at this point.
I'd just like to say that the playground at Sanji looks beautiful, and one of the residents mentioned it. Thank you for all of the staff's work for getting that in place. The kids loved it.
Thank you.
Samantha, some of the same equipment that's at San Gregorio for pickleball is actually being taken from there to move over to Steve, right? Or
So,
not?
not the netting or anything, there's
Oh.
some kind of accessory items that will be moved over,
Okay.
signage, things like that will be transitioned. Everything that is at San Gregorio right now, though, will be removed. And then staff are planning to bring back a report to council on what it would look like to turn that back into tennis, which is the intention, even through the conceptual plan update, was to return it to 2 tennis courts. So we hope to bring that to council probably in December sometime.
Excellent. I have some comment on item 7A.
Okay.
So, very briefly, we actually encountered what my comment is about. It would appear that the updated specific plans under the master plan are not likely to be implemented anytime soon due to budget constraints. In lieu of that, my recommendation is the commission should review and consider temporary and interim improvements as may be presented. In the particular case here is the dog park at San Gregorio. I have to tell you, I have a bias regarding San Luis Rey because I like to repurpose the lawn bowling facility for something similar. So I would defer to Samantha. How would we, remember, this implementation would not be permanent. It was essentially be acknowledged as being temporary, until the whole plan is adopted or we amend the plan to allow us to do certain elements of the plan. So, from my standpoint, if I was the king, I would amend the specific plan in such a fashion that I could do the dog park, right? And maybe not even do the parking for the dog park, but anyway, do the dog park and solve that problem. And then over in San Luis Rey, similarly find, because it's a pretty big specific plan down at San Luis Rey. And there'd be some elements in the specific plan that could be implemented, but maybe not the whole plan. Again, because of budget constraints. I think we have to acknowledge the fact that I think both of those specific plans aren't going to happen anytime soon. I mean, it's just too much money.
I'm trying to understand what you're asking for, because it seems to me that we did just now ask for prioritization of some items that are on those site-specific master plans.
Right, but what
what
we didn't do is we didn't specifically address how that would happen through the specific plan. In other words, I guess what I'm asking is that we give some direction to the staff to figure out a way through the land use issue, or whatever you want to call it, the specific plan, so we can take elements out of the specific plan and do them. It's a kind of a separate issue. We wanted to do the dog park, that's great, but I got a specific plan that specifically says I got to do all this other stuff. It's all or nothing. And I'm suggesting that we make a motion or we make a recommendation that some elements of the specific plan, as an interim and temporary basis, be allowed to occur. You follow? Which is what we're talking about. Otherwise, you're going to wait until the specific plan is done, and that could be 20
So
years.
if I can understand what you're saying, you're wanting to look at the plans and pick and choose what could be done in the near term.
Right, and I would characterize that as interim and temporary, to try to get around.
So any of those conversations would need to be, I think, done through the budget discussion. This commission, as we've talked about, is going to get the opportunity to opine on what's priority. It's not a guarantee. If something's prioritized, it might not make the budget cycle. But that could be a good opportunity during that meeting to bring up projects that you want to see go forward quickly.
But what about the legality? What about the legality of having a specific plan and doing it? If you phased it, does that make it street legal?
The nice thing about a single site-specific plan is that the whole thing is adopted, and now we don't have to keep going back to council every time we update it.
Right.
Unfortunately, that hasn't happened for these 4 other park sites. So now we're getting into the business of picking and choosing, and every time we pick something out of a plan, we have to go do a master plan amendment for whichever park it is. And that's okay. It's just that much more of a heavy lift. So it's easier to adopt the entire plan, But we could piece it off, and that's what we're essentially doing with the dog parks, is we would take that element and we would amend the master plan for San Gregorio to include an off-leash dog park.
So do you need some direction from us relative to that, like a motion to say,
I think that's what we just got for the dog park specifically.
okay,
And then I think anything else the commission could consider through the budget conversation.
and when we consider that through the budget, we would have some accurate information of how much it would cost to implement the dog park and all of its,
Yes, you will have rough estimates.
okay. That's enough.
Okay, I think we are ready to move on to item 8A, subcommittee reports. And first would be funding and sponsorship committee. So let me start and give you some my thoughts on where we are right now. The subcommittee met in Samantha's office on September 19th. We have a couple things on our work plan for this year, which is to set up a policy within the city for how we name parks or specific facilities within parks, and with an eye specifically to if we get a large donor, and at what point would they get naming rights for whatever they want to name. So we do have some policies from other cities that we are looking at. We have those in our hands. They're distributed to the committee members. We will have a meeting in early November to kind of start picking which of the items out of those policies that we would want to put in a policy for the city of San Clemente. We also have a meeting this Thursday with Marty Weinberg and another person from his pickleball association to talk about any connections they may have at the national level and connections with perhaps some large companies that provide pickleball equipment or are tied into pickleball in some way that might be able to help us with funding or might be interested in funding. So those my two items I have from our subcommittee. Any ideas, other ideas, Thor or Jennifer?
Mr. Chairman, I'm actually familiar with this process because they wanted to rename Vista Bahia after, I can't remember, somebody from Parks and Rec. And we didn't want to really change the name of the park, but we did name the field. So it was Vista Bahia, I can't remember whose name we used, it was a while ago. So the similar thing can happen here. I don't think we'd ever be renaming a park, but we could name a field, we could name a court. In other words, just as you indicated, we could have this pickleball company sponsor the court and put their name on it, and I think that's a terrific idea. Terrific idea. And they probably would do it. I mean, anyway.
Chairman, can I raise a concern about the number of members on our funding and sponsorship committee? There are 3 of us, and currently there are only 4 members. Do we need to reduce the number of our subcommittee to be in compliance?
Yes, temporarily you do, or we need to pause meeting until we have a full body seated.
You declined our meeting on Thursday, right?
That's true, I did. I have a conflict.
So do we need, okay, so Jennifer declined the meeting that we have on Thursday, so it will be just Thor and me. I don't know if we have to do something more official than that, because I expect we will have new members here by the time we meet again. Well, but wait a minute. We were going to have another committee meeting in mid-November. We probably won't have, well, we certainly won't have.
Sorry, quick question. So if 2 meet, is that a violation of the Brown Act?
No.
So then we would
The
be
2 of
fine.
you
Yeah,
can
we're
meet.
fine for this week, yeah.
It would be the November meeting, which I know that they're trying to get interviews scheduled very soon here, so it would be whenever, it would be the November committee meeting that is uncertain. And maybe it's just paused.
Well, I think the problem becomes we have only we have a majority of the actual commission is 3. So I think technically, when you have 3 on the committee, potentially you could make a decision and be in violation of the Brown Act. Because it wasn't covered. But I mean, aren't you guys just basically going to just put together these ideas and we're going to send them along?
So I guess for your question, at this point, it's best that there is only 2 members. or we don't meet until we have a fully seated commissioner.
Would it be helpful if I withdrew from the subcommittee to allow the subcommittee to move forward so we can be in compliance, at least temporarily until we're fully staffed with commissioners?
That makes sense.
Yeah, that would be okay. You would, yeah, that would work.
We have ultimate confidence in Ron and Thor.
Agree? Chairman, should I make that motion to withdraw?
Okay. Withdraw, just like.
Or maybe just don't show up.
Yeah, I think we can just handle it that we will be, the subcommittee for now will be meeting with Sheriff Firestein and Commissioner Johnson until we have a fully seated council.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Let's see. Consideration of establishment of the Legal Affairs Committee. Would you like to speak on that item?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'd like to change the name to Public Affairs. Then Legal Affairs starts confusing things, but we're going to be involved with the city attorney and so forth and so on. So I have attached, you have a copy of a memorandum that basically talks about this committee, the function of the committee. It's coordinate, maintain, assign, and budget. So the committee would basically make a listing of all draft pending up for vote, adoption, and go to Senate and Assembly, and frankly any other agency or body. And we just track that stuff, and then come back to the commission and advise us. I mean, this is one of those situations where I think this is really important, that you just basically pay attention and you basically follow what's going on that may have an implication to what we do. I mean, what we recommend to the city council, but what we do. And you don't want to get blindsided, and sometimes this stuff comes out and we go, well, what's this? Well, people say, well, you should have known what it was. We would assign a member to monitor, this is sort of a little bit different, to monitor the California Parks Commission as it may pertain both to San Clemente, because we have a state park in our jurisdiction. We don't have any control over it, but that and other related issues that come out of the Parks and Rec Commission. I might add, by the way, there's 7 members to the Parks and Rec Commission in the state. There's only 5 people, and there's nobody from Orange County. I just thought I'd mention that. And then the budget implication would be ultimately for some memberships or publications or seminars, et cetera, like mainly for Samantha, so she could get issues of interest to the Parks Commission, including, again, state, federal allocations for the purpose of parks and recreation. These seminars and presentations are very important because they give you an indication of what's available that you may not otherwise have. And so that would be basically the function of this committee. I personally have always had a committee like this in organizations that I have been involved in because we've always felt that it was important to know what was going on with governmental agencies in terms of our business. So that's the story. So I guess do I have to make a motion for this?
Yes.
Okay, I would move that we establish a committee, a subcommittee specifically called the Public Affairs Committee, and that its function be consistent with the memorandum that I just issued, which is coordinate, assign, et cetera, et cetera.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee, second by Johnson, to establish a Public Affairs Committee. Any other discussion?
Yes, discussion. Samantha, do we have other means of obtaining this information and staying aware of what's going on?
The city manager's office is apprised of any activity that might, or funding opportunities or bills that might be available that could impact and affect San Clemente. If that's mostly the extent of it.
I would respond, Jennifer, that, yeah, theoretically they're supposed to be tracking all this stuff and then advising the council, but that's a big plate of activity to basically involve themselves with. And this is basically kind of a narrow perspective, a narrow focus on things that affect parks and rec and so forth and so on. And maybe nothing happens, and maybe all of a sudden something happens. It's kind of a hit and miss kind of thing. But I also think it's important that the committee and the commission kind of be aware of what's going on out there, specifically, within our purview, just so we know. I mean, this doesn't mean we're not going to take positions on legislation or anything else, but if there's something going on, we're kind of told this is what the Parks Commission, this is what Parks Commission at the state level is doing. If it has anything to do with us, this is the legislation that's being proposed. If it has anything to do with us, and you just start having awareness when you do this kind of thing, you become aware, those kinds of things that have an implication.
And I'd like to add in, I believe it would be a benefit to not only this commission, but the residents of San Clemente, if we had certain individuals from this committee being in regular contact with our state assembly, state senate, county board of supervisors, because there is funding out there, and sometimes, our staff may miss that. So I think it's a good idea.
By the way, I can speak to this. The legislators love having somebody contact them from a local commission or committee. They feel they're getting input from their constituency and from their people. So I mean, even if you just call up and say hi, and hi, this is from San Clemente Parks and Rec Commission, and we're an advisory board to the city council, but we're just trying to figure out what's going on. They love that. Suddenly you get on the radar, which is good.
Can I ask you, do you actually see this subcommittee meeting? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what they do. I mean, individually, I can see people, coming up with the things that are going through the legislature and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to figure out what.
Well,
the subcommittee does
the
by
committee
itself.
discusses it, right, the committee discusses it and kind of coalesces the information. So Thor might have some information, he says, hey, I just found out about this, what do you think we need to do? And we may discuss that and say, okay, that's, if somebody has some experience with it or knowledge of it, they would say, nah, that's not gonna happen, or this is gonna happen. So it's kind of it's a classic committee, they take advice, they take things into consideration from all the members, and then based on that, we would vote as a committee and, send it up, have it agendized and send it up and see what everybody thinks.
Okay. Any other?
It sounds like it would not be a bad idea, but I wonder if it is outside of our scope as BPR commissioners. We have a city attorney, we have a city manager, we're supposed to be
Yeah, that's supposed to be.
kept aware of those things, and I wonder if it is beyond our scope.
Well, I'm pretty familiar with the function of the city manager and the city attorney, and invariably, they don't get this information. I mean, they may get it. I've never, ever since the chamber, basically, Mimi Collier was very involved politically, and she found out what's going on. But I don't see anybody. I mean, I think they're charged with doing this, but I don't think they pursue it. They're too busy doing other stuff.
Yeah, I have a lot to do.
They have a lot to do. I mean,
Commissioner, I wonder, do you have an example of some law or proposal that's going on that we are not aware of? I'm trying to see how this would come
Okay,
up.
well, specifically, there were two bills that were before the Senate and before the Assembly, and they had specifically to do with, when we were beaches, they specifically had to do with beach erosion. And they were very substantial in terms of studies and allocation of money and so forth and so on. The state of California, and I'm pretty clear on this, I think, has allocated $2.2 billion for coastal rehabilitation. That's all we have down the coast. And our Assemblyman, actually Bates, had sponsored two bills regarding beach erosion. Very specific, I have copies of them, and I don't know, I guess they made it to the floor, and I don't know what Governor Newsom was going to do about it. But so those were two specific examples. And then I went to when I talked to the chief of staff, Bates' chief of staff, I said, at the time I was interested in the whole erosion issue with beaches. But with this committee, I would just say, hey, what's going on with any kind of statewide business for parks and recreation. It also responds to recreation issues. You know, what's out there. And so you just become aware of it, and if it's something that we think, you know, is valuable, we can make a comment, or advise the city council to become a pro or con on the legislation and go from there. It's, you know, it's really important too, like I said, there's two components here. To know what's going on, which is what I was doing with the erosion stuff. It was, assembly was 966. And also just, you know, making connections, becoming, you know, visible, you know, kind of a thing.
I think that all sounds very helpful. I just think that this could also be covered in the section of our meeting agenda that says items from commissioners, where we could be aware of something that's happening and bring it to the attention of the commission. Might that be sufficient to raise our awareness instead of having a subcommittee?
Well, I personally think that it's important enough to have a subcommittee. And doing it individually, I think, contracts the opportunity to get that information. So if I have 3 people, let's say I have 3 people on this committee, right? So there's just for purpose of discussion, there's you, there's me, there's Thor, or there's Ron. And so we're all kind of walking around with our eyes open, right? And you know, and people become aware of the fact that we're on this committee and that we have some interest in it. And Ron has a serendipity moment where he meets somebody and, you know, they tell him what's going on. Thor has the same thing, or I have the same thing. So now all of a sudden, our velocity, right, is expanded threefold, you follow me, as opposed to one individual who just has to go and individually kind of do all this stuff, you know, one-on-one. And it, you know, it's very valuable. I mean, it is. It's extremely valuable, and it's valuable for the members of the committee themselves. I think it lets you understand how things are provided for.
Okay, one second.
I'm sorry, one of my other concerns would be it's my understanding that if I am a BPR commissioner and I'm reaching out to like one of our senators or assembly persons, that I need to have the authority from the city to do that I can't just, you know, go rogue and go represent BPR
You
without
cannot take a
permission.
position, absolutely cannot take a position, but you can solicit information.
Okay. So that would be my concern, that if we had a subcommittee, might that become a problem?
What would happen is that you would get the information, the committee would recommend to this commission, and we would recommend it to the city council to take a position. You can't take a position, all you can do is just basically say, I'm a commissioner, and I'm interested in, you know, what's going on.
Samantha, can I ask you, are you okay with that assessment, that it's okay if we have a subcommittee and all we're doing is asking for information as opposed to like trying to represent a position in the city?
Yeah, that's okay.
By the way, we can specifically kind of put that in quasi-bylaws too for the committee, you know, just to make everybody's clear on what it is they're doing.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this item?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion passes 3-1. Commissioner Elliott opposed. Okay.
Are you going to appoint members tonight, or do you want to wait
Yeah,
until we have a full body?
thank you, good question.
We don't have a lot of people to appoint.
I would recommend that we put that on the agenda for next time, so that hopefully we have a full group here and we can see who's.
But I'll volunteer to be on the committee, a committee of one for now. Until we get these other, huh? And then I'll have to recruit and we'll see what happens.
Is that okay with everybody?
Is this an establishment of a 2-person subcommittee or a 3-person subcommittee?
Whatever is legal within
You
the
can't
fiscal
exceed
isn't
3, but you could have 2, that's okay too. You don't have to have 3, that's your max. but-
Yeah, we could do 2 for now, until we get our new members and see if somebody's
Well,
interested.
that's selecting members at the next meeting. You want to make that decision now that we're going to do only 2 members, or?
We can do 2 or 3, it's okay.
Okay, let's make the decision on numbers of members and the people at the next meeting. Is that okay with everyone?
Absolutely. But you can include me in that committee. So I might bring you
I
in.
nominate
That's your idea. Yeah.
You have to do all of that at the next meeting.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Okay,
Moving
moving on.
gavel.
Moving on to 8B, items from commissioners, Peer Pride Foundation. Let me get some of my notes here.
I have an item for 8B.
Okay.
Too.
Okay.
Okay, this is proposed agenda items.
Okay, we're not on the proposed agenda items, we're on the first item.
Consideration.
Items for Commissioners 8BI, the Peer Pride Foundation. Okay, October is Peer Pride Month. There were 3 big events from Peer Pride in the month of October. 2 of them have already occurred. That would be the Pier Jump and the Sunset Dinner. Both of those were sold out. And the final event is October 19th. That would be next week, October 19th, Light the Future of the Pier. That's another dinner event that's being held at Holy Hansen Beach Club. And that's it. Peer Pride did not have a meeting this month. They because October is Peer Pride Month, they do not have a meeting, and they just have the events that they're scheduled for the month of October. Okay, that's it.
No, I
now we are. I'm sorry.
880.
We are now on 8B.
You can't get me out of here. I'm telling you, this is disgusting. Like a bad penny. I can just keep turning up. Okay, this is 8B2. And this is the proposed agenda. And here it is. I want to begin, this is what I want to do. I want to begin a discussion and preliminary information and issues to provide EV and bicycle charging stations on the parking lots of the parks. And all I can tell you is that this is going to be a little bit of a process, but we're going to be way ahead of the curve. And the fact of the matter, if you stop and think about it, I mean, fast forward, people go to the park, they attend the soccer game, they do whatever they do, walk around, go to the dog park. This would give them an opportunity as we fast approach the electric car situation in the state of California, that they can charge their vehicles. And the other thing is that the parks that have lights, there's plenty of electricity to provide for this. I mean, that's one of the issues, you know, you put up these charging stations and you don't have any source for the electricity. What I'm proposing here is that we just start the process and just get some information. Maybe we have Public Works, or we have somebody just starting to nose around it a little bit, because it's going to be a little bit of a process. Let's just say, for instance, this is a 2 to 3 to 4 year initiative, and maybe we start off doing phases of it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of issues to discuss, because, for instance, if I've got these parking spaces up at San Gregorio and I take 3 or 4 of them and make them charging stations, what does that do to my parking, right? I mean, do I have to add more parking just to accommodate these things? So there's a lot of issues, but I really think it's important for us to do it. And I think we should be out in front of it, frankly. It makes a lot of sense for us. Oh, and the other thing is, you'll notice, is I put in bicycle charging stations. So, for instance, if we put in bike racks, we then provide some accommodation so people can ride their bikes, which I think is increasingly going to be people going to ride their electric bikes. They come to the park and do whatever they're going to do, and they can actually charge their bikes. By the way, none of this is free. You know, you pay, not a lot, but they pay something to charge the car, they pay something to charge the bike. And then, we'll get Ron a gold-plated gavel, and we'll be in business.
Or Rob.
I heard that.
Chair.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what even starting this discussion would mean.
Is Commissioner Weskin requesting to put this on a future agenda?
What, I'm sorry?
Are you requesting to put this on a future agenda?
Yes, that's all I'm asking to do, just agendize it.
Well, I think you're heading in the right direction, Commissioner Weskin. However, I've had an electric bicycle for at least 3 years now. I think I've only ran out of charge once, and that's because I chose not to charge it. One of my concerns would be, transients taking advantage, charging their bikes. We want to keep it for our residents.
They got to pay for it.
Yeah, but still, we want it to be for our residents, but our residents can theoretically charge their bikes at home. So I just wouldn't really want transients, people experiencing homelessness to kind of congregate and use this and just hang out there to charge their laptops or their phones.
Right, and
Yeah, sure,
we can't have this discussion. It needs to be placed on the agenda
Right.
before we can discuss it.
Yeah.
Right, that's all.
So because of that, you know,
You want to put it on the agenda?
I'm ready to put it on the agenda.
Samantha, can I ask you, do you have an idea who would even come to our meeting to talk about this?
This type of stuff is all handled through Public Works and engineering specifically. I'm very cognizant of the staff time that it would be involved to bring somebody here. So if the want is to really look at this, then again, the commission needs to be action oriented, not just exploratory per se. If the want is to look at it, then it would be potentially forming a policy for future, park repaving projects need to include X amount of charging stations. That's something that's tangible. And if that's what the commission wants to look at, I think that's feasible. I will be very honest, it's a very heavy lift. It's probably something that should have been in the commission work plan and approved by council, so we're not working without council direction per se, but if the commission wants to entertain this and put some effort into it, it would be something that could come back after the new year, probably springtime, just gauging staff workloads.
Mr. Chairman, also, our budget process will start in February, right? So, there may be some information from this that gives us a preliminary budget amount, just to either do preliminary engineering or, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you certainly, the part of the budget discussion, commission could say we'd like to incorporate charging stations within some parks. But again, I think this needs to go back to some policy making on what is our strategy to roll out charging stations
Well, wouldn't that
in public facilities.
Wouldn't that concern then probably be an argument for agendizing it?
Yes, and I'm not opposed to agendizing it. The staff concern is it wasn't on our work plan, number one, and number two, this time, it will not come back to this commission until early spring most likely, just given the workload of staff, that's all.
What does it mean?
I think I'd kind of probably come down on the side of, yes, I agree, this should have been in the work plan, and we should probably focus our time on things that the city council has already approved us to work on as part of our work plan. So,
Well, my only problem is the work plan process is very lumbering. It's a very slow process, and this is the kind of thing that's going to move very, very quickly in terms of implementation, maybe just in terms even of available funds to implement it. So, this is a hot item.
do you want to put this in a motion?
Sure. I move that we agendize, for purpose of discussion, agendized item for preliminary information regarding EV charging stations in the parking lots. It's all preliminary.
We have a motion.
Do we have a second?
Do we have a second? I don't think we have a second.
There you go. Guys, for lack of a second.
Okay, let's see, last item is adjournment, so make that motion.
I'll move it. Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Questing, second by Elliott to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
To the next meeting.
Aye. Yeah, we are adjourning to the regular meeting of the Beaches Parks and Rec Commission on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at City Hall Council Chambers, located at 910 Cayenne and Hiroshima, San Jose, California. Thank you.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your help and support. Love every one of you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.